Hey guys, today I wanted to sit down and I don't even know how to start this. I don't even know how to start this video besides the fact that it's Sunday, and I'm taking a very relaxing Sunday to myself and kind of just doing dick all. I met with my new trainer earlier this morning and worked out, and that was good. And then this afternoon, I've just been feeling weird, and I've been thinking a lot about what it's like to be dating in 2017 and like how weird recently my dates have been, and just my whole dating experience in the last couple of months, how kind of odd it's become, and how it doesn't even feel like dating anymore. It just feels like I don't even know. I don't even know how to explain it. But I'm going to kind of go down that route of conversation. So if this is not something you're interested in, click away now. And this is definitely going to be a little bit more of a serious conversation, because something happened to me about a week ago now, or a little over a week ago now, that I'm still very much reeling from and still trying to wrap my mind around, mostly just because I don't necessarily understand what happened or how it happened, or if 100% for a fact it happened. I can't say for sure it did happen because I haven't asked the person, and I don't particularly want to, because either he's going to completely deny it or he'll actually admit to it, and I don't know, I just don't particularly want to talk to this person ever again. But anyways, it's just a situation that I've spoken to a couple of my friends about, and recently spoke to somebody about who shared a very similar story that happened to her, and very similar symptoms and reaction, and just she kind of went through the same thing I had, which is very weird, but at the same time makes a lot of sense because this clearly has happened to plenty of people, unfortunately. Whether you're a girl or a guy, it doesn't particularly matter, I don't think. I think this happens to just about everybody, which is just really unfortunate. But basically, to begin with, I recently went on a date, if you want to call it that, which I'll explain a little bit more of the situation. But I went on this quote unquote date, and honestly, I wouldn't throw out claims like this for any reason. And again, mostly because I'm still trying to understand kind of like what happened, and not necessarily why it happened, because I don't think I'll ever get that answer, but like the feeling of it and the whole situation of it all. But I honestly feel like recently when I went on this date, I was 100% like drugged, or something was put in my drink, which isn't a typical way dates go, or at least I didn't expect that going into the situation. And it's very weird to say it out loud, because I mean, I've said it to a couple of people and I've said it out loud, but like nobody has reacted in any sort of way, except for one of my best friends was very freaked out and scared for me and stressed out. And okay, so basically, I don't even know. It's so weird. Like, I don't know how to talk about this whole situation. It's so just, the whole thing is so weird to me, and I don't know how to, like, wrap my mind around it. But at the same time, I know this is a conversation that should be going on, because this happens to people all the time. This is stuff you hear about on the news, and then you hear these giant, like, court cases and these lawsuits and these things that end up happening, whether they're at college campuses or university campuses, and, like, you hear these stories, or like just everyday life, like women or men go out on dates and this shit happens, and it's weird that it's normal, but yet we don't talk about it enough. And it's just, never expected it to happen to me. And that's not to say that like I live in this bubble and I don't think anything ever happens to me and that I live in this perfect world. Absolutely not. I think the reason I didn't expect it to happen to me is because I don't necessarily, like, I've never done drugs, like hardcore drugs in my life. I've smoked marijuana in the past before. I haven't smoked it in a very long time. But I've never done any other sort of drugs in my life ever. It's not something that I really need in my life, nor is it something that I'm going to judge anybody else for doing. I have seen the other side of it, where I've seen people who are addicted, and I've seen people who have drug addictions and people who struggle with it, and it's a very scary thing, and I never want to be in that position where I'm struggling with something like that. Like, life is hard enough. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm making it even harder for myself, and it's just something I have zero interest in trying or doing or need in my life. I just have no need for it in my life. So I guess with that association, when you think of drugs and partying and going out drinking and you possibly getting roofied or all these things, you really think of it as a very social aspect, and you think of it as like a party thing, and it happens a lot at parties and at bars where you go out often. But recently I haven't been going out that much, mostly because I'm trying to save money for Iceland, and I just haven't really been motivated to go out and party. And I don't know, I've just been in this kind of weird bubble headspace of like, I don't know how to feel about dating and being around guys. And even before this happened, it's just kind of this weird headspace I've been in recently. Oh my God, there's like a pack of teenage girls while I'm having this very serious conversation. I feel like I should be talking to them about this. So let me set up the situation. I had met this guy on Bumble, and I recently signed up for it. I didn't really think much of it. I didn't really think much of it. So I recently signed up for Bumble thinking, why not? It's another Tinder, like, why not try it out? I had heard about it, but I never had actually tried it out. And okay, we're gonna maybe come back to this when I don't have external loud screaming going on in front of me, like literally in front of me. BRB, guys. Okay, now that the screaming teenage girls are gone, I can continue on with my story. So let me set up the situation. I think that's where I was last. I had met this guy on Bumble. I had deleted my Tinder account. I hadn't been on Tinder, and I hadn't been on there for a while. And I decided, you know what, whatever, I'll try Bumble. I had heard about it, but I never tried it. So I downloaded it. Seemed easy enough. There were a lot of really good-looking guys on there. I scrolled for a couple of days, and I was scrolling past it, and I was matching with people. Same kind of situation though as Tinder. It's like half-assed conversations, or a lot of people who had just recently got out of a relationship and are not looking for anything serious, which is totally understandable. Like, if you are very upfront and honest about what you're looking for, I mean, I can appreciate that, honestly, because at the end of the day, as long as you're not lying to me, at this point in my life where I'm at right now, is I'm not looking to just have one night stands. I'm not looking to just hook up with random people. I'm not interested in meeting somebody and then never getting to speak to them again. I like to bond with people. I like to get to know them. I like to know who I'm talking to. I like to know who I'm spending time with. I like to know what makes you happy and like what you do for fun in life. And it's just like, I like to get to know people. And it seems like that step has been skipped and taken out of dating and just out of social norms. Nowadays, I don't feel like I've had that conversation with a lot of people recently, which is just, it's unfortunate. But it mostly, again, the reason why I've kind of diverted away from dating recently. But I started talking to this guy, and we seemed to have a couple things in common, or he seemed interesting enough. Like, he was holding up a conversation. We were talking for a couple of days, and he and I made plans to go on our date on Sunday. But it ended up coming up that on Thursday, that of like a week or two ago, he had time. Like, he was just finishing up at work in the evening, and he wanted me to meet him at the bar that he was working at, and meet up with his friend. His friend was going to be there, and they wanted to meet me and whatever. So I mean, whether you believe in it or not, whether you believe in gut intuition or instinct or feeling or intuition or any of that, you know, if you believe in it or not, that's fine. You don't need to believe in it. But I definitely can say that something was going off inside of me. Like, I was getting a gut feeling, and there was just a couple things that he had said that kind of threw me off, or that, like, I didn't find appropriate, or I just didn't sit well with me. And I should have known then. And of course, like everyone says, you know, getting an outside perspective on the situation now after the fact, you know, you can always say that, you know, I should have known then, I should have listened to my gut. And I'm definitely going to hold on to that knowledge and make it more of a prominent thought going through my head as I move forward in life. Or move forward now with dating or meeting guys or meeting people. And I don't know, it was not a situation I was concerned about. It was in an area that I knew really well. It was in a neighborhood I knew really well. I had been to that bar before, but not in years. But I knew I wasn't scared of the situation. Like, I'm the type of person, I'm the type of girl that I have no issue with going up to a guy and asking for their number. I have no problem going up to a guy at a bar and, you know, buying him a drink. I have no issue, like, being forward and being the forward person in the situation. But also, I'm not afraid of standing up for myself and saying, like, no. Like, I have no issue with saying, no, this is not okay, I'm not interested, or just walking away from the situation. I have no problem, like, if I'm on a date and I'm uncomfortable, or if there's something going very wrong, I have no issue getting up, getting my stuff, paying my bill, because I have no problem paying my bill, or paying the bill, and even a bigger slap to the face, but paying for the bill, getting my stuff, getting up and leaving. Because it's, at the end of the day, if there's something that's going on that's not okay, I have no issue shutting it down. Because if I'm uncomfortable, then I'm going to let you know. I'm going to be respectful about it. I'm not going to be rude about it unless you're being rude to me. I 100% try to treat people the way they treat me. So in a lot of situations, I'm very forward in saying, you know, hey, you know what, I'm not comfortable, or you know what, I'm just gonna go home. I'm not like, I just want to go home. Like, I'm tired. I'm, you know, not feeling that great. I'm gonna go home. That's usually along the lines that I go with. Like, I don't try and be rude. I don't try and be disrespectful, or try to. I don't want to disrespect anybody, even if they're making me uncomfortable. I try and be very, like, I don't know. Try and be kind of straightforward in the situation. So I got ready, and it was a Thursday night, and I ended up getting to the bar around, I think, sometime after 9 or something, and I met him there. He was still working. He was still on the clock, but I sat down at a table, and it was kind of close to the bar, but I sat down at the table, and he came over to me. He said hi. He was exactly who he said he was, and he asked me if I wanted a drink, and I said, sure. And he asked me what I wanted, and he would make it for me. And he seemed pretty nonchalant about it, but he seemed very, like, in a hurry, which I understand, because if he was still working, if his boss was around, which soon enough he pointed out that he was. So, like, I didn't really think anything of it. But I told him that I wanted a whiskey sour, and he said no problem, and then he got up and left, and like 5 or 10 minutes later came back with my drink. And it tasted terrible, first of all. It was okay. So let me give some background on me as far as when it comes to alcohol, because I think a couple of people that I can expect will say, oh, you were just drunk, or you were just, like, you drank too much or whatever. Personally, I am somebody who can handle my alcohol very well. My drink of choice is whiskey or bourbon, so I don't generally like to drink beer. I drink wine from time to time. But if I have a choice in what I like to drink, it's usually whiskey or bourbon. So generally, whiskey and bourbon are a stronger alcohol. They're a liquor than beers and some wine. So I can generally handle my alcohol very well. I drank a lot when I was young. I learned my limits fairly early on in my life. And even now, ironically, a couple weeks ago, I had gotten very drunk with, I had gone out with my best friend on a night out and got very drunk. But even thinking of that situation with how much I had drank then, it was probably about this, it was even less than I had drank on this date. And I did drink a lot, so I'm not going to be ignorant to that. I'm not going to say, oh, I didn't drink anything, like, oh, it was 100% his fault. I don't know for a 100% fact if he did put something in my drink. But when it came down to the alcohol, I definitely didn't drink that much to feel that way. And in like past years and when I was younger, I would go out a lot more. I would stay out outrageous now, like I would stay out till like outrageous hours of the morning, and I would drink my face off. Like I learned how to drink alcohol on Jägermeister and vodka. So like I'm not a lightweight when it comes to alcohol. But anyways, when it came down to it, like a couple weeks ago when I had gone out and gone drunk, I totally have no shame admitting it. I puked and I felt like garbage the next morning, and I definitely felt hungover the next morning. And I think I can count on one hand the amount of hangovers I've had in my entire life, because again, like my body can handle alcohol. Maybe not so much anymore because I'm getting old as hell. But I don't drink to excess anymore, or at least I really try not to, because I like to drink my alcohol and enjoy it, but I don't tend to drink to excess, especially in social situations where I don't know my surroundings, or if I am around a whole bunch of strangers, or if I'm by myself, if I'm with friends, or if I'm with somebody I can trust, then I'll let loose a little bit more. But I've always had it in the back of my mind that I know I got to get home safe, and that I'm the only one that's getting my own ass home. And that's something that's always been in the back of my mind, and it's something I've never forgotten. So I always remember that at the end of the day when I go out, get home safe no matter what, get everyone home safe, get all the girls safe, get them home safe, and make sure everybody's okay. So I got to the bar, and then I finished my drink. It was so bad. It tasted so bad. It was so sour. He clearly had gone overboard on whatever makes a whiskey sour, or however he made it. It tasted awful. It was really bad. But I finished it, and I felt fine for the first 20 minutes. I felt totally okay. He got off his shift. We moved to the bar. We were sitting at the bar, and he clearly is friends with one of the bartenders that was there that night. And so from that point on, I was watching her make all the drinks, and we had 2 shots, and then I think I had another drink, and that was it. So I didn't really drink an outrageous amount for what I usually can handle, but I definitely was a little bit tipsy. Like I was feeling it a little bit. And we weren't really talking. It was kind of awkward. Like he wasn't really interested in having a conversation with me. And I at the beginning point, I understood because he was still technically working. So I really didn't think anything of it. And then we started chatting a little bit more once we were sitting at the bar, but he didn't seem really interested in the conversation. And then I started feeling more and more fuzzy, and I didn't feel like the words that were coming out of my mouth were connecting. And I stutter and I stumble when I'm nervous and I feel stressed out or whatever. Of course, I'm human, and shit sometimes doesn't, especially when I'm nervous, or I'm nervous around new guys, or if I'm interested in a guy that, or a new guy I'm interested in and I have to talk to him. I tend to be a little bit more quiet and nervous and stutter and stumble sometimes. But at this point, we were having a conversation, it was flowing, I felt comfortable, and then all of a sudden it kind of started hitting me where I started feeling like I was drunk, which was weird for the amount I had drank. But then I stopped drinking. I wasn't drinking anymore. I kind of refused to have more shots. I didn't want to have any more to drink. And then he kind of started pushing a little bit more on me, and he started wanting to kiss me. And I think I don't even remember what point we ended up kissing. I don't know if we kissed at the bar, but we ended up getting our stuff and deciding to go to the bar down the street, or at the next corner. So I got my stuff together, and I felt very lightheaded and I felt very almost dizzy, which was very unusual, like a very unusual feeling. And I think at the time I was thinking, if I have to think back to that moment, maybe what was crossing my mind was like, oh, you know, I drank a little bit more than I should have, or the alcohol is hitting me right now because I'm getting up and I'm starting to move. But I still, thinking back to it now, like I definitely didn't drink that much. We get outside and then he starts kind of like pushing a little bit more on me, and all of a sudden wanting to make out with me, and we were kissing and everything. And we kind of stand outside for a minute at the other bar. Once we get over there, we're standing outside near their like front patio, and he's gonna smoke a cigarette, and I'm just standing there, and I feel like something is so wrong because I feel so incredibly drunk at that moment, or I just feel so, like, that's the only way I can describe it. I felt so incredibly drunk at that moment, but I hadn't drank enough to feel that way, and I've never felt that way being that drunk, or even, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but, like, even after drinking a lot, I've never felt so out of control of my body, which is the weird part. But in those situations, I try really hard to keep my shit together, and I'm really good at keeping my shit together and like making sure that I get home, or like I'm still very alert and aware of the situation. But anyways, he ends up convincing me. He's just like, okay, why don't we, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go home. Like, that's all I kept saying. I kept saying it over and over and over again. And he's like, no, but why? Like, why? And I'm like, honestly, you know what, I'm not feeling it. I'm gonna go home. He's like, why? Like, I don't understand why. He's like, just have one more drink with me. And I knew that I was going to go into the bar. If I was gonna stay, which I ended up staying, stupid me, I was going to sit down and I wasn't gonna have another drink, or I wasn't gonna drink it anymore. And we ordered half pints of beer, I think, and I think I had like a sip of it, and I knew at that point, like, he was trying to get his hands all over me, he was trying to make out with me, and I'm just like not into it whatsoever. And because I almost felt like I had gone like a mute, like I couldn't speak, and I think at that point I was processing and understanding like something's so off that I can't even talk straight, and I'm just don't feel like I'm present. And that was really scary because I wasn't there with anybody, and it was it was on a Thursday night, and I was just thinking, I'm sitting there and I'm like, something is so off that I am losing control over my body, which is so weird to me because I've never had that experience before. So I told him, I'm like, look, you know what, I just want to go home. And I think finally he just took the hint, and I was just like, I don't even remember, but I know he finally kind of backed off a little bit, and he just didn't seem to understand why I wanted to go home. But I tried to flag down our waiter, and then I ended up just getting up, and he's like insisting on paying the bill, and I'm like, you know what, no, I'm gonna pay for it, and then I'm gonna go home. And that's basically what I did. I got up, and I could already feel that I was swaying a bit, and I just had no concept of, like, it almost felt like an outer body experience. It just felt so weird. Like, it feels like I didn't feel anything. That's the best way I can describe it. Anyways, I finally like walked over to the end of the bar, and I looked at the bartender, and I'm just like, I'd like to pay my bill. And like, I didn't say anything else because I didn't feel like I could say anything else. I could barely dig my wallet out of my purse. And my bartender came over, or the waiter came over to me, showed me the bill. I gave him money. I think I took some of the money back, and then I walked straight out. I think I said bye to him. I don't even remember saying bye to him, or I don't even know if I said bye to him, but I ended up, just walking out. And I remember, like, when I was walking in, I didn't have as a difficult time opening the door when I was going in, but when I was trying to leave, I had such a hard time opening that door. Then I realized I had to pee, and I had to pee really bad. So I said, you know what, before I either get on the subway or call an Uber, I'm going to walk over to McDonald's, which was across the street, and I'm going to go pee, which I ended up doing. And then I walked out of McDonald's, and I totally felt like that drunk girl. But at the same time, I didn't feel like I had, again, any control over the situation, which was the really weird part. I remember standing outside of the McDonald's. I remember opening Uber, and I just remember standing there. Like, I felt like I had to puke. I felt very nauseous, and I felt off. I felt very, very off, and I knew I had to get home right that second. I remember calling my Uber. He showed up within like a minute or two. I got in my Uber, and he honestly, that I don't even remember if I gave him 5 stars or not, but that man deserves like 20 stars. He picked me up. He was trying to be really nice. He was trying to have a conversation with me. He was being very pleasant and very kind. And I actually sat in the back seat, where I always like to sit in the front seat because I don't know, it feels weird for me to sit in the back seat and like pretend like I'm being chauffeured around. I'm not about that. I prefer to sit in the front seat and have a conversation with the person if they're down for one, or at least be a little bit more personable. And I remember, like, again, not being able to speak straight. Like, I wasn't able to speak at all. And I remember feeling instantly nauseous the minute the car started moving. And I don't get nauseous easily at all. I remember putting my head up against the chair that was in front of me. I was sitting in the back seat in front of the passenger seat, and or behind the passenger seat. And I put my head up against the headrest, and I was buckled in. And I asked, at one point, I felt so embarrassed, but I knew I had to get him to stop. I asked him to pull over, and I like kind of stumbled out of the car, and I just like was hunched over on the sidewalk next to the car. And I'm just sitting there, and I try to throw up because I just feel so nauseous. And a little bit like of this white foamy stuff comes out, and I'm just like, I definitely didn't drink that much, and there's no way, like, I was just like, I don't know, again, it's one of those things where I was just like, that is really weird. It's another weird thing. And I tried to like compose myself as best as I could. I remember getting back in the car. He drove me home. And the entire time, like, he was trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm trying to respond in some way, shape, or form, but I couldn't really respond. And I think eventually he realized that I was probably drunk. He just probably thought I was drunk. He got me home. He stopped the car in front of my apartment, and I remember that. And I said, thank you. And I remember opening the door of the car, and this is where, for the first time, I think I realized, like, looking back on the situation, where I knew that something was either slipped in my drink, because I have never been so drunk that when I actually opened the car door and tried to get out of the car, I actually stumbled and almost went sideways into the cement and into the ground. And that was when alarm bells started going off in my head like crazy. Because I realized that in that very moment, I had no control over my body, and I had no understanding why I didn't have control. So I closed the car door, and I try and walk straight to the stairs of my building, and I realize that I am legitimately going like sideways, and I'm like falling. I can't walk straight, let alone stand up straight. And I'm going so far sideways that I felt like I was gonna fall and break something. I thought I was gonna fall into the stairs. I finally, I thought I must have looked like a lunatic to this poor Uber driver, because I remember him standing there for a couple of like minutes as I was struggling to get up these stairs. I think I ended up like half crawling up the stairs, getting inside, and like getting up to my apartment. And like the minute I walked through my door, I remember like getting home, taking my clothes off, and then going instantly to lay down. And I think at one point I got up and I went to like puke, and then went straight back to bed, laid down, and passed out almost instantly. And that was like the weirdest sensation and situation I have ever had in my entire life. I've never felt that way before after drinking. I've never had any sort of situation after drinking copious amounts of alcohol, various kinds of alcohol. I've mixed countless times throughout nights out. I've never ever in my entire life had that kind of feeling of having no control over my body and feeling like I am going to just puke everything out. It continued on. Like, I woke up the next morning and I could barely get out of bed. Like, my body felt so heavy and I still felt like I was drunk. And again, like, I didn't drink even remotely close to any sort of amount that I should still be feeling that way. But I remember getting out of bed and like not being able to stand up straight, walk straight. I walked to my bathroom and I just started puking again. And it was the most violent puking I think I've had in a very long time. And I was puking so hard, and all that came out was like this white foamy crap, and it was disgusting, and I don't know what was still sitting in my stomach, but it took me like, I kept getting up to try and get ready for work because I had to go to work the next morning, and I kept laying back down on my bed because I felt like I couldn't function. I felt like I just wasn't thinking clearly. I still felt like I had no control over my body. It was just the most bizarre feeling. I felt dizzy and nauseous the rest of the day. So I got to work fine eventually. I barely ate that day. It was like, again, the weirdest feeling I've had in a very long time, but the fact that I felt like that the rest of the day, I just felt dizzy the entire day. Like, I didn't feel like I was in my head. I didn't feel like I had really control over my brain, and it was really scary. And I don't know, I want to believe the good in people, that people are good, and I want to believe that people won't do this kind of thing. And I don't know 100% for a fact that this guy did this. Do I believe very clear, like, is it very clear that most likely he did it? Yeah, probably. Because even that day, he texted me, he's like, oh, did you get home safe? And I never responded. Then he texted me again. He's like, hey, how's it going? And I told him I'm like really rough, like I'm not feeling well. And he didn't talk to me the rest of the day. He didn't talk to me until the next day. He texted me, and I was really not interested in the conversation. Like I said, I didn't want to talk to this guy anymore. Anyways, he was just like, oh, when are we hanging out again? And I told him just flat out, I'm just like, honestly, I'm not interested. Like, I don't want to hang out. I don't want to, like, I'm just not interested. And he's just like, why? And I'm just like, I'm just not. And it was clear, like, because I have an iPhone, and clearly he had an iPhone as well. I could see that he was clearly typing something, but never ended up sending it, or just decided to not respond. And I haven't heard from him since. But it just makes dating and thinking of dating that much harder, because I've already had such a hard time in life trusting the wrong people and falling in love with the wrong people. And that's a whole nother story. I mean, this video is probably like 30 minutes long already anyways. And I want to believe people are good. And I want to believe that I'm going to find somebody and be in a relationship at some point. And it's not like the main goal in my life right now, because there's so much more going on. But it's very tough to be lonely. And it's really tough to put trust in people. And obviously, I know that not every guy is going to do this to me. And that hopefully this is never going to happen again. But even like a week later, I was at the bar last night, and I was by myself because, again, I have no issue with going out by myself and going to a bar and sitting at a bar by myself. I like doing that. And if none of my friends watch MMA, and last night the fights were on and I wanted to watch them, and I went to my local bar that, like, I know, or I'm familiar with the bartenders, and I'm familiar with the security, and it's not far from my place, so I know that at the end of the day, I'm not far from home, so I can get home safe. But even at one point, I'm sitting at the bar, And the bartender was kind of distracted because her friends were there, and I had to stop her at one point. I'm just like, I really have to go to the washroom, but I don't want to leave my drink at the bar because I'm scared. And she's just like, no problem, like, I'll put it aside. And I'm just like, no, like, I recently had a really bad situation, and I'm really scared of leaving my drink at the bar. She said, okay, don't even think about it. I'm going to hide it under the bar. And I'm like, okay, great. Even when I got back from the washroom and sat down, I saw where she had put my drink. It was clearly out of view. It was clearly out of reach for most people. But even at that point, I was still very hesitant when she brought my drink back and put it down in front of me, because I was so scared that was going to happen again. And this is why I don't do drugs, because I don't like the feeling of being out of control. I don't like the feeling of being able to, like, be in a situation where I can be taken advantage of. And again, I don't know 100% if this guy did this, but honestly, it's very clear that something went down that night that I didn't ask for, and that I really wish hadn't happened, because it puts me in a position now where I don't know how I feel about going out and meeting people or trusting people or going to the bar by myself. And it's just now sitting in the back of my mind, and it's half the reason I wanted to make this video, because I think it'll give me a little bit of relief to get it out. And I really hope this hasn't happened to any of you guys. I mean, I hope it hasn't, but I'm sure it has, because it's an unfortunate thing that does happen, considering I brought it up recently in a group conversation with girls, and one of them mentioned she had experienced the exact same thing as I had, and we both connected the dots that most likely something had been put in our drinks. But anyways, I'm just really struggling with forgetting the situation, but also understanding it and moving on from it, not just trying to black it out and pretend like it never happened. It definitely did happen, and I'm definitely trying to learn from the situation. I just wanted to have this conversation with you guys and see if any of you have experienced the same thing, and how you felt, and maybe the symptoms you had, and how you coped with it, and how you were able to move on from it, and how you were able to move on, like, with your day-to-day life. Because for some weird reason, I honestly feel like it's really affecting me, and I don't want it to be, because I don't want to not trust everybody, and I don't want to put myself in a position where I don't trust anybody, because it's just a very lonely and sad place to be. But anyways, I gotta end this video because my battery A is dying, and this is gonna be like a 40-minute video that nobody asked for. But this is something that I just really wanted to get off my chest, and if you've sat through this whole video, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you that support me either here or on Instagram, and that send really positive messages and kind words, and appreciate what I do and who I am. And I can only ask for that, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you that do watch. It means a lot. And yeah, hopefully, I hope the next video will be a little bit more positive and like uplifting, but I really felt like I needed to get this off my chest. So I appreciate all of you who have sat through this and watched. And I'll see you guys next time.